is CNN. Wolf Blitzer reports on the day's big stories, on location, and talks one-on-one with key newsmakers. Wolf Blitzer reports, weeknights 8 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight, going, gone. The NASDAQ tumbles, erasing the 2001 rebound.
Two big losers, Cisco still hemorrhaging days after its profit letdown. And Dell, down on fears it will do the unthinkable, cut jobs.
And attention Kmart investors, we'll take a bottom line look at a retailer on the mend and the enigmatic billionaire who's buying in. Plus, she took the fifth, but her bank records could speak volumes as Congress prepares a subpoena for Denise Rich.
Live from coast to coast, this is Moneyline.
Welcome to Moneyline. I'm Willow Bay in Los Angeles.
Good evening, Willow, and good evening, everyone. I'm Stuart Varney in New York. Top story tonight, a Friday plunge on Wall Street. Stocks tumbled all across the board, investors rattled by troubling news from several corporate giants. Big layoffs at Motorola, potential layoffs at Dell Computer, and word that Lucent is being investigated for possible accounting fraud. On that, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 99 points, closing at 10,781, the fourth losing session in a row for the blue chips. That may sound bad, but the damage for the week was actually negligible, down less than 1% over those 5 trading sessions. The big loser for the week was the NASDAQ, which lost 91 points today, or more than 3.5%, ending just under 2471. And this was the second losing week in a row for the NASDAQ. Over 5 sessions this week, the index fell 7%.
Today's closing level on the NASDAQ, 2470, should have a familiar ring to it. It's where we finished out the year 2000. Now, investors are saying goodbye to the gains racked up in the first weeks of 2001. On January 24th, the index was up more than 15% on the year. Today, it is flat. Taking a look at the big NASDAQ losers today, Oracle tumbled after Morgan Stanley said the dot-com crash is hurting sales. Microsoft lost more than 3.5%. Dell fell on those layoff fears. Yahoo was down 2.25%. And investors still have not gotten over Cisco's profit letdown earlier this week. It fell below $30. Bruce Francis looks at why the NASDAQ rebound has evaporated.
Even though Sun Microsystems expects to grow revenues by more than 30% this year, executives at an analyst meeting this week were not upbeat about the way customers are parting with their cash.
I haven't seen much change since the December downturn. I think everybody's cautiously optimistic that with the Fed rates, but I think with energy costs and some of the Fed rates here in the United States, we have to play that out over the next several months.
Sun stock surged as much as 42% this year, only to now trade down nearly 12% for 2001. Tech concerns were magnified this week as Cisco also slashed targets for the year as the company warned of zero or negative growth for this quarter and the next.
So now we have to see evidence that the economy has actually improved to get out of the trading range and move higher in the NASDAQ.
Tech investors have been treated to an almost endless succession of downbeat forecasts in recent weeks. From its 2001 peak on January 18th, Sun has lost 30% of its value. But the carnage has been even worse for many others, according to Ned Davis Research. From the 2001 peak, Ariba, Applied Microcircuits, Network Appliance, PMC Sierra, and Broadcom are all down more than 40%. NASDAQ investors are used to false starts. January's fizzled 15.7% rally recalls 2 others in 2000, another 15.7% rally in August that faded by Labor Day, and another 35% surge that started in late May and ran through June. Fund manager Fred Sears had half his money in tech last year and has less than 10% today. He believes prices are headed much lower.
We're going to go back to 1990 recession levels when PE stocks were trading for 10 times earnings. A lot of them in high-tech stocks were trading for 10 times earnings.
Tech stock investors who are long should hope that Sears is wrong this time. Right now, the average PE for the NASDAQ 100 is more than 74. That's more than 7 times Fred Sears' comfort level. Willow?
Bruce, not an adjustment we would want to live through. Bruce Francis reporting. Thank you. Today's big drop in Dow follows a published report that the #2 PC maker is cutting expenses and preparing to slash as many as 4,000 jobs. The company would not confirm the report, saying it was, quote, pure speculation. But analysts told Moneyline they would not be surprised by job cuts. If Dell does downsize, it will be following in the footsteps of a number of its competitors, including rival Gateway. While the stock had a tough time of it today, Dell shares are still up nearly 35% this year. The company reports earnings next week.
No question about this one. Motorola is laying off 4,000 workers. The chip and cell phone company announced the cutbacks today. Shares lost nearly $1 in today's trading session. Here we have Greg Clark, and he's joining us live with details on this one. Greg, what do you have?
Well, Stuart, this is a continuation of Motorola's ongoing efforts to cut costs. Yeah, the company's saying today it will cut jobs at its semiconductor operations, and this is just the latest round of job cuts as the company battles problems in its core businesses.
For the third time in 10 weeks, Motorola is slashing jobs. This time the company is eliminating 4,000 positions from its semiconductor division. The cuts come as Motorola's two main businesses, semiconductors and mobile phones, continue to struggle. Motorola is the world's second largest mobile phone supplier, but demand for wireless handsets is slowing. And in the microchip business, a glut of inventory has hit the industry. And all of that has led to shrinking profit margins.
The margins are almost embarrassing compared to some of the other companies that they compete with, and that was in the strong part of the semiconductor cycle. Now we're entering into a downturn in the industry.
This round of job cuts comes just a few weeks after Motorola said it was eliminating 2,500 positions at its mobile phone unit. And in early December, it said it would cut 2,800 jobs. Motorola shares have gone from 60 to the high teens in less than a year. Some analysts believe they're very close to a bottom, but it may be a while before they climb.
Motorola becomes attractive from a valuation standpoint relative to its peers. However, there's really not a catalyst in the handset business, the semi business, or even its infrastructure business to get the stock moving until at least mid-year at best.
A Motorola executive said while eliminating jobs is extremely painful, it is also a necessary part of the company's cost reduction efforts.
Now, analysts say Motorola has been looking at each and every division to see just where costs can be cut, and some on Wall Street believe even more layoffs may be ahead for the company. Stuart?
That hurts. Greg Clark, and thanks very much. Let's check out what happens to Motorola shares recently. In fact, they've had a miserable run of it lately. The stock actually is down some 63% in the last 52 weeks. Willow?
Stuart, talk about miserable runs. How about the Dow, a miserable run of Fridays? Today was the 7th Friday in a row that the Dow has ended deep in the red. Let's go to Terry Keenan at the New York Stock Exchange with a look at just what drove the blue chips under today. Terry?
Yeah, maybe we should just start taking Fridays off. This was the week that investors finally resigned themselves to the fact that the economy is in lousy shape and that technology will bear its full share of the slowdown, with earnings under pressure as far as the eye can see. Dan Niles, the Lehman analyst, set the tone early in the week when he said the semiconductor companies are only in the first part of what would be a normal downturn. And since these stocks typically recover first, the implication for the rest of the sector was even more alarming, a conclusion that the Cisco outlook seemed to back up. The other thing people are worrying about here is that rather than rallying on the bad news as some other tech stocks such as Intel did in January, Cisco sold off on its report 3 days in a row, and all the other tech stocks followed suit. Today, the Dow's tech components, there are 4 of them, were lower again. Second straight day we've seen that happen. IBM down more than $2. Hewlett-Packard off $1.34. And with the time frame for an economic recovery being pushed further out into the future, Walmart had another tough day, as you can see there, as did GE. ExxonMobil, the only notable winner here today, it posted a gain of $1.36. As for the market overall, breadth negative again, 16 to 14 in favor of decliners, and volume at 1.1 billion shares was on the light side. One other topic of conversation here today, the staggering loss in market value in recent months and the continued selling in severely beaten down stocks such as Cisco and Lucent again this week. I compiled a list of lost market value in individual stocks from the highs of that individual stock to today's closing price. And the evaporation of wealth, real and on paper, is unprecedented. $367 billion knocked off the value of Cisco since last spring. $307 billion off of Microsoft, $268 billion from Intel's value, and there's more. Lucent losing $224 billion in market value. AT&T, a loss there of $140 billion in market value. Oracle, Sun, and WorldCom, each losing more than $120 billion in net worth. Put it in perspective, all told, the losses from these 8 stocks alone is $1.69 trillion. and that is more than the entire $1.6 trillion Bush tax cut plan over 10 years. And a lot of people are saying that's one reason why Wall Street isn't too excited about the ability of a tax cut to jumpstart this economy. Willow?
So, Terry, when you add it all up, why aren't investors buying on the dips? What's holding them back?
Well, we saw a little bit of buying on the dips in January, of course, and we saw a nice pop in Microsoft and AT&T, the real dogs of last year. But Greg Heimowitz, the money manager at Entrust Capital, had a good point this afternoon. He said a lot of money managers like himself had a horrible year 2000. They don't want to have two back-to-back losing years, so there is a lot of caution about jumping into these very risky names.
Terry Keenan at the big board, and word is, Terry, no Fridays off for you. Thanks, so. Stuart?
All right, Willow, here's what's coming up on Moneyline. The SEC puts Lucent's books under the magnifying glass. We'll find out why the feds moved in for a much closer look. Plus, the deep pockets donor to the Clinton Presidential Library has controversy over a pardon for Denise Rich's ex-husband grows. We'll tell you about new moves to learn just how much she gave. And a new legal fight for O.J. Simpson. We'll have that story in the News Digest when Moneyline continues.
From CNN's Los Angeles and New York headquarters, this is the Moneyline News Hour.
Everybody's got a tip. Everybody's got a sure thing. Everybody's got a cousin who works with some guy who swears that this baby is it. What everybody doesn't have is the kind of financial confidence that makes it easy to ignore what everyone else is saying. Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. Move your money. Get well connected.
November 23rd, 1998, America's major tobacco company signed an agreement that restricts the marketing of tobacco products. No more billboards, and no more cartoon characters selling cigarettes. The tobacco industry says things are changing, just not their deadly addictive product.
Now you can own the major companies driving America's economy, all in a single security. It's called SPIDER, index shares that closely track the performance of the S&P 500. In one share, SPIDERs give you ownership in the entire S&P 500. They're traded all day on the American Stock Exchange, just like stock. Just go to ticker symbol SPY. Why try to outguess the market when you can own it? Call your broker or 1-800-THE-AMEX.
A big development tonight in the uproar over Denise Rich and President Clinton. After pleading the fifth, the ex-wife of pardoned trader Mark Rich will now face a subpoena from Congress. The House Government Reform Committee will subpoena 2 sets of records in connection with the pardon investigation. The committee wants to review the bank records of Denise Rich and the donor lists of the Clinton Presidential Foundation, the fundraising body for the Clinton Library. Fred Katayama joins us now with the very latest from our Washington Bureau. Fred.
Well, Stuart, well-placed Democratic sources tell CNN that Denise Rich gave $450,000 to the Clinton Presidential Library Foundation. The donations came in 3 equal amounts of $150,000 in 1998, 1999, and 2000.
Bill Clinton can use an enormous sum. As with his private office, Mr. Clinton plans to build a pricey library and museum on 27 acres, one that costs more than that of Richard Nixon's, Gerald Ford's, and Jimmy Carter's combined, even though it's in lower-priced Little Rock, Arkansas. Clinton's building, which will house a policy center and foundation as well, is estimated to cost $100 million, more than double that of Carter's when adjusted for inflation, triple that of Nixon's, and quadruple that of Ford's.
Clinton is just one of those people that I think people are going to be terribly interested in for a very long time. In fact, I think they're going to be more interested in Bill Clinton than they are interested in the Clinton presidency.
The tradition of the Presidential Library dates back to 1939, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt's library was created as part of the National Archives. The rules are simple. Presidents set up a foundation to raise money for the library.
It was decided that in the Presidential Libraries Act of 1955 provided that the president would give his material to the government, but he would also give the building. And the government then could accept the building and the material to be housed there, and the federal government would then run the institution.
The government spends more than $13 million a year to run the libraries.
The libraries have had their share of noteworthy donors. Aga Hassan Abedi, the founder of the infamous Bank of Credit and Commerce International, contributed to Carter's library. Industrialist Armand Hammer helped pay for Nixon's, and now possibly Denise Rich for Clinton. Stuart?
Fred, you said that the former president was trying to raise $100 million for his library. I thought he was trying to raise more than that.
There is more, Stuart. The foundation's director told me that Clinton hopes to raise another $100 million in addition to that. It also houses a policy center as well as a foundation. They'd like to use it for a lot of activities.
Fred Kariyama in Washington. Thanks very much, Fred. Willow.
Stuart, another legal tangle tonight for O.J. Simpson. Wolf Blitzer has that story in our Moneyline News Digest. Wolf?
Thanks, Willow. O.J. Simpson surrendered to officials in Miami today. He's charged in connection with an alleged road rage dispute. Last December, a motorist told police that Simpson ran a stop sign, jumped out, shouted at him, and grabbed his glasses. Today, the former sports star occasionally mugged for the cameras. As his attorney said, Simpson is cooperating fully.
As you can see, it was very cordial with him and the police officers. There was no animosity. There were no handcuffs.
Here in Washington, the U.S. Attorney's Office today filed federal charges against alleged White House gunman Robert Pickett. He could get up to 10 years in prison if he's found guilty of assaulting a federal officer with a deadly weapon. Also today, a surprise development in the murder of Ennis Cosby, son of entertainer Bill Cosby. California prosecutors say Michael Marashev, who was convicted of the crime, has confessed to the murder. He's asked his lawyers to withdraw his appeal. Finally, a delicate dance in space today as the shuttle Atlantis docked with the International Space Station. Atlantis delivered a $1.4 billion laboratory and command center called Destiny. It's scheduled to be installed during a spacewalk tomorrow. I'll have much more on the day's top stories coming up on Wolf Blitzer Reports, including an interview with Bob Dole. Join me at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. Stuart?
And we will. Wolf Blitzer, thanks very much. Still ahead on Moneyline, a California appeals court gets ready to rule on the internet music service that rocked the recording industry. Is it bedtime for Napster? We'll answer that one soon.
Karen Ellis invests in 3 different mutual funds, so she can relax, knowing she's diversified. What she doesn't know is that her funds have 40% of the same stocks in common. See how we earn it. Solomon Smith Barney.
What if our chief executive had to run the country all by himself? No speechwriters, no cabinet, all by his lonesome. So why are you trying to manage your finances the same way? With Merrill Lynch Unlimited Advantage, your personal financial consultant becomes your chief of staff to help you plan, invest, and bank, all for a simple fee. A simple fee, a simpler life. Who couldn't benefit from that?
In tonight's Moneyline profile, Lucent Technologies number 2, CFO Deborah Hopkins. She started out modeling and selling clothes for Saks Fifth Avenue, but finance paid better, so in 1977 she got an accounting degree. In 1991, she helped Unisys stave off bankruptcy. In 98, she became the youngest executive and only woman to join Boeing's corporate ranks. 14 months later, she joined Lucent Technologies. Nicknamed Hurricane Debbie, Fortune magazine has called her the second most powerful woman in business. But with word today that the SEC is investigating Lucent, she may want to remember her own advice. that progress is rarely made in a straight line. Moneyline, we'll be right back.
Will you travel down this road with me? Help me be the one I want to be. Help me see the things I long to see. Will you travel down this road with me?
I told my father I wanted to grow up to be a teacher. Wouldn't you rather be a doctor? He said. It's a noble profession and you could become wealthy. That may be true, I said. But without teachers, where would doctors come from?
Napster, the online music swapping site, might be flooded with users this weekend. Users afraid that the plug will soon be pulled on the popular service. A circuit court in San Francisco is set to rule on a copyright infringement case brought by the recording industry. The three-judge panel is reviewing a lower court order that effectively would have shut down Napster this past summer. The ruling is set to be issued on Monday morning.
Warren Buffett continued liquidating his position in Disney during the last year and a half. According to SEC filings, between September the 30th, 1999 and March 31st, 2000, the Oracle of Omaha sold 80% of his stake in the company. Buffett was a net seller of stocks in all of 2000, and along with Disney, was also known to be selling shares of fellow Dow component McDonald's. Shares of Disney today finished the day slightly lower at $31.95 a share.
In tonight's Moneyline Movers, health insurer Cigna is feeling the effects of a slowing economy. The company warned today that its full-year earnings will fall short of Wall Street estimates, and that sent its shares reeling. It lost more than 10 to close at 110 3/4. The economic downshift caused Saks late yesterday to cancel plans to spin off its upscale Saks Fifth Avenue business from the rest of its department store operations. Today, Wall Street panned the decision, and the stock lost nearly 2. Computer software maker Mercator fell more than 2.5% or over 25% after posting a wider-than-expected fourth-quarter loss. But one winner today, Network Appliance, it jumped 3. The data networking firm beat Wall Street estimates late yesterday and said it is on track to meet Wall Street estimates for its fiscal year. All good news to investors who have suffered through a rough ride. The stock is off 73% from its 52-week high.
And in tonight's Tech Watch, partners Earthlink and Sprint have decided to see other people. Sprint is giving up its exclusive rights to acquire the internet service provider and sacrificing its Earthlink board seats as well. Still, the companies have not completely called it quits. Sprint will hold on to its 27% stake in Earthlink. So, who wins? Analysts say there's no question Earthlink is a back-in-play as a prime takeover target. And 2 analysts upgraded the internet service provider, saying a buyer like MSN, that's Microsoft's internet arm, has a lot to gain and can afford to pay a hefty price. Check investor reaction to all of that. Sprint down 83 cents, but Earthlink rallied early in the day, gave some of it back, but it still closed up 4%.
Coming up on Moneyline, Derek Jeter snagged another title. His new multi-million-dollar deal makes him the highest-paid New York Yankee ever. We'll have all the details next.
Tech Watch is brought to you by Nortel Networks. We're building the new high-performance internet. For more of the latest technology news, log on to cnnfn.com Tech Watch.
Faster, more reliable, more profitable. With Nortel Networks, the internet can be whatever you need it to be. no matter who you are or where you are. So tell us, what do you want the internet to be?
Right now, over me.
Congratulations. Your new website is averaging 476,000 hits a day, generating more than 1 million new bits of information about your customers every week. That sound you hear isn't your technology at work. It's all that information crying out to be understood.
Well, it's time to go. Oh, we love having you here. Oh, we'll be back. It's a great place. Thanks.
Have you always had this in? Oh, we ran our own printing company.
This was always our dream for when we retired. You should have seen it before.
It needed a lot of work, but we did it. I don't know if we'd be able to do it. You'd be surprised.
Martin got us investing with zero price.
Even helped us work out what we could spend once we retired. Maybe we ought to think about that.
I think so.
T. Rowe Price, helping people invest with confidence for over 60 years.
One Wall Street executive reaped a huge reward for a boom in the bottom line. Lehman Brothers paid its chairman and CEO, Richard Fuld, $28 million in total compensation last year. That was a 68% rise jump from 1999, as Lehman's profits hit a record and its market value nearly doubled. The stock gained $1.35 today to end at $79.65.
Ah, but an even bigger payday unveiled today, this time for a Major League ball player. Derek Jeter, the 26-year-old shortstop for the New York Yankees, agreed to a reported $189 million contract over 10 years. Jeter got his reward after helping the Yankees win 4 World Series championships in his brief tenure. It was the second richest in baseball history, shy only of the $250 million deal that shortstop Alex Rodriguez signed with the Texas Rangers. How about that? Coming up in the second half hour of Moneyline.
Well, it just keeps getting worse for Lucent. The SEC turns up the heat, launching a formal investigation into the company's accounting practices. We'll have the details.
Plus, another Friday sell-off hits the streets. We'll have more on today's market action, of course.
And later, the bottom line on Kmart, why this blue light special is red hot on Wall Street. We'll be right back.
Our name was one of the smaller things we changed.
Tonight on The Point, George W. Bush's report card. A look at his accomplishments. Greta Van Susteren gets to the point. Tonight, 8:30 Eastern.
This week on Entertainment Tonight, the real-life crime scenes of Tinseltown still unsolved mysteries. And there's been thousands, but now there's one unlike all the rest. This week on E.T.
Watch tonight at 7 on KOIN TV6.
Tonight on KOIN 6 News at 5, a house explodes in a Portland neighborhood, the occupants seen running away. And whether you push or drive, new rules for scooters are on the way. That's tonight at 5.
The IRS inventory reduction sale is coming to Hillsborough, Chrysler and Jeep this week. You can take immediate delivery of any new or used vehicle for only a $35 documentation fee. All vehicles have a monthly payment marked right on the car. Just pick a vehicle, pick the payment you want, pay the $35 fee, and drive away. And when we make a deal, we even pay off your trade-in, no matter what you owe. You could save thousands because the giant IRS liquidation is coming to Hillsborough, Chrysler and Jeep this week.
Any way you stack it, AT&T Digital Cable means more. More choices, more control, more HBO. Order HBO, get 4 distinct channels of HBO. Or choose Cinemax and get more Max. And with 6 unique channels of Stars and Encore included, AT&T Digital Cable stacks up to a lot more value. Call 1-800-CABLE-ME now. Get free upgrade installation when you order our digital silver package with HBO or Cinemax. AT&T Digital Cable. It's smarter.
Ray is an artist. But until he sells something, he paints with a bigger brush. And he's looking for a new truck. VHIX.com. Compare options of similar vehicles one-on-one. Check out crash test and safety results. And even research your payment schedule. VHIX.com. Find the right car for you. VHIX.com. Roadmap to the automotive world.
This is CNN.
The Moneyline News Hour continues. Here again, Willow Bay in Los Angeles and Stuart Varney in New York.
In tonight's headlines, the NASDAQ kisses this year's gains goodbye as fears of slowing profits saps the strength of a tech rebound. Motorola joins the growing list of companies slashing payrolls. Motorola says it will cut as many as 4,000 jobs in response to slowing demand. Plus, new management and a heavyweight investor boost the fortunes of a retailing giant. We'll check out the bottom line on Kmart.
But first, let's update the markets for you if you're just joining us. Tech stocks took another beating on ongoing concerns that corporate profits will suffer as the economy slows. The Dow headed lower from the outset, slumping 99 points to close at 10,781. More than 1 billion shares changed hands. An even worse showing on the NASDAQ, which lost 91 points, or more than 3.5%, to end just under 2471, wiping out all of this year's rally. Volume was more than 1.8 billion shares. In the broader market, the S&P 500 fell more than 17 on the day.
One factor rattling investors today, word that the Securities and Exchange Commission is formally investigating Lucent for possible accounting fraud. Lucent stock, one of the most widely held in America, fell more than 1.5 points. Steve Young looks at how the plot is thickening for the troubled telecom equipment giant.
The escalation of the Securities and Exchange Commission's probe of Lucent comes about 3 months after the company said it was restating nearly $680 million in sales in fiscal 2000. At the time, Lucent said it had fired one employee after conducting its own investigation and notifying regulators. But now there are questions about possible fraud regarding the way Lucent's balance sheet listed credits given to customers, partial shipments, and goods sent to distributors when there were no customers for the items. And accounting experts find it hard to believe just a single employee was involved.
It's pretty unlikely that one person could have that much magnitude of a responsibility for a problem. It seems to me there would be a large set of people within the organization that should have known of it, and possibly including the CFO.
There were, in fact, 2 CFOs during Lucent's fiscal 2000 year. Donald Peterson, now CEO of Lucent's spin-off Avaya, and the current CFO, Deborah Hopkins, who got the job last April. Lucent would not comment on whether Hopkins has been questioned by the SEC. Avaya says Peterson has not. In a statement today, Lucent said, "We fully expected that after initiating contact with the SEC, they would look into this matter thoroughly and completely. That is what they are doing. The SEC has made no charges of any kind."
I guess the one fear is in an investigation would something additional be uncovered that was not included with the revenue items that have already been restated. That certainly would be further damaging to Lucent.
Lucent faces a whistleblower suit from its former president of North American Sales, who says she was fired after warning the former CEO that sales targets were unrealistic and accounting practices were too aggressive. Lucent stock has swooned over the last year, down 71%, 9% of that today on news of the formal SEC investigation.
The relentless pressure on companies to meet the earnings numbers Wall Street expects has made the dry issue of what accountants call revenue recognition red hot. Stuart?
Steve, can you give us some kind of time frame here? Because you're talking about an SEC investigation, which presumably will be hanging over Lucent and its stock, what, for months at least?
It could well be months. It's the early stages of a formal investigation. The SEC is looking at this revenue recognition thing more and more because of what they call channel stuffing not just at telecoms, but at PC companies, software companies as well.
And what we're talking about is fraud. And fraud is a deliberate act. It is not a mere misinterpretation of figures, is it?
Potential for it, certainly. Lucent had said just one employee, but all the experts say it's hard to imagine one accounting for $680 million.
Steve Young, thanks very much. There's been a big management shakeup at another company caught in an accounting controversy, Critical Path. Doug Hickey, the CEO of the email systems provider, has quit 1 week after the company announced it was looking into how it recorded certain sales. The president and the VP for sales, suspended last week, have left the company as well. Founder David Hayden will step back in to fill some of those roles. The stock fell off a cliff last week on the news. It was halted and remains halted at just over $10. The 52-week high was $119.
In tonight's sector focus, home improvement stocks. After taking an economic hammering, they may be poised for recovery. Today, Lecter's announced a restructuring plan, saying it will close 166 stores and launch the Think Kitchen brand in an effort to claw back to profitability this year. And the nation's second largest home improvement name, Lowe's, says it will meet lowered estimates for the quarter and is optimistic about 2001. That news prompted Goldman Sachs to add the retailer to its recommended list. Analyst Matthew Fassler believes business is getting better and said, quote, Lowe's is making the numbers. We had been concerned about a big blow-up. Investors seem to buy the positive predictions. Penny stock Lecter's surged 36% and Lowe's jumped 3.5%. Other winners in the sector, Home Depot, Building Materials, and Home Base.
And here's what's just ahead. The latest worry on Wall Street. Have corporate profits contracted to the point of recession? And we're going to ask stock watcher Leo Modigliani whether we can hope for much of a rebound in stocks this year. We'll be back.
Everybody's got a tip. Everybody's got a sure thing. Everybody's got a cousin who works with some guy who swears that this baby is it. What everybody doesn't have is the kind of financial confidence that makes it easy to ignore what everyone else is saying. Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. Move your money. Get well connected.
The new AOL Time Warner, working to make your life more enjoyable. The world's best information and entertainment will be available to you wherever you are. And you'll stay in touch with your friends, family, and colleagues anytime, anywhere. The very best of AOL Time Warner on your television, telephone, portable devices, and the internet. It's your choice. You're in control. AOL Time Warner, committed to making your life easier, better, and more enjoyable.
Tonight on The Point, George W. Bush's presidential report card. From the tax cut proposal to his gatherings with Democratic leaders, accomplishments, problems, and flashpoints. Greta Van Susteren gets to the point. Tonight, 8:30 Eastern. Tonight in the spin room, one magazine called this man Lee Atwater, Ralph Reed, and James Carville all rolled up into one. Meet GOP campaign expert Mike Murphy. He'll join Preston Carlson tonight, 10:30 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight on Larry King Live, the Monica Lewinsky scandal behind her. She's putting her best face forward in an effort to live down its bitter legacy. A candid conversation with Linda Tripp tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Lingering over the markets, the distinct smell of fear. The corporate profits are heading for trouble. And some market watchers are wondering whether the R word for recession might apply to the earnings landscape. Alan Chernoff took a look at the profit picture.
There's debate on whether the economy is in recession, but Wall Street is convinced that corporate America has fallen into a profits recession. 2 consecutive quarters of declining year-over-year earnings. Company after company has warned that profits during the first and second quarter are going to be weak.
We're going to be marginally profitable. Non-cash earnings will be lower.
We clearly had expected better volume growth.
The worst profit comparisons are in basic material companies like chemical firms, suffering from the high cost of petroleum, airlines and truckers, victims of high fuel prices, automakers squeezed by a slowdown in consumer spending, and technology companies facing spending cutbacks and tough earnings comparisons.
We're going to be suffering a two-quarter slowdown here.
We're going to be conservative for the remainder of fiscal year 2001.
But thanks to big profits from energy and utility companies, the profit recession as measured by S&P 500 earnings should be modest. After an earnings gain of 3.5% for the last quarter, the consensus forecast calls for a decline of 1.2% for the current quarter, followed by a modest dip in the second quarter and a recovery in the third. Technology companies are going to suffer a far more severe profit recession, according to analyst estimates. Operating profits for the NASDAQ 100 have fallen an estimated 8.4% during the last quarter and are forecast to keep dropping through the third quarter of this year before recovering into positive territory.
Traders maintain the stock market has already factored in a profits recession for the first and second quarter, but the growing fear is that the profit problems will extend well into the second half of the year. Alan Chernoff, CNN Financial News, New York.
And in tonight's Moneyline Focus, can stocks mount a sustained rebound in this climate of slowing profits and a slowing overall economy? For some perspective, we're joined by Leah Mogliani, U.S. equity strategist at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. Leah, welcome back.
Thanks, Stuart.
Your position, I believe, is that this is going to be a tough year and that there will be dismal returns in stocks for the rest of the year. Make your case. Why?
Yeah, no, I think the returns are mediocre at best this year. I'm not looking for a big year like some of the strategists are looking for. I think the economic times are tough. I think earnings have come down, which is going to help things, but they still have more to come down, and I think we're going to feel that. And I think valuations had gotten to too high a level, and we're still seeing that correction now.
So your point is very similar to Alan Chernoff's report right there. Profits on the NASDAQ companies, NASDAQ 100, they're down, they're falling, and that's the problem.
That's right. And at the same time, we're seeing a valuation correction that started last year, and I think we're going to see it continue.
But look, we've got the likelihood of a tax cut backdated to January the 1st. Not the certainty, but the likelihood. And the probability of further interest rate cuts still to come. That's not going to be enough to get this economy going in the second half of the year or maybe towards fall and winter this year?
I think that the Fed will help the economy get going and will help the markets get going, and I think that's why I don't think it'll be a negative year for the index, for instance. I think, we'll be coming out of it towards the end of the year. The tax cut, I'm afraid, is going to be a little bit too late, and also I'm not sure that it's going to really help most Americans to spend more money since it's very targeted at a certain group of people.
Now, was it just an internet and a dot-com bubble that burst last year, or was it a broader technology bubble that burst and is still having the air come out of it? Would you go that far?
Yeah, I would say that it's a larger bubble, and I'd really look at it more as a valuation bubble. In other words, when I'm looking at stocks now, which stocks do I want to buy? I'm looking for value. So some of the earnings multiples had gotten to ridiculous levels. That was most apparent in the internet companies. It was also apparent in the technology companies, but it was in some other companies as well. And I think we're seeing some more rationality come into the market.
Cisco, way below 30. I think it was $28 a share that I last saw. Is the value in Cisco at 28?
I am nibbling at the tech stocks. I think you want to be building a little position, but I am not going to overweight technology here. I'm still a little nervous. We have a couple quarters of bad earnings coming, and I think that we're going to feel that.
EMC down to 56.
Yeah.
Value there?
I mean, like I say, I have a small position in Dell.
I'm going to keep pushing, Leah. I'm sorry.
You can build a bigger position, but I have a smaller position there, and I'm not adding aggressively to those areas now. I want to give it just a little more time. We've had a good run in some of the technology stocks here, and I'm not sure that I believe it totally. I think it's, a little questionable.
Okay, which areas are you adding aggressively to?
Okay. I have adding to retail right now. I think that the retail stocks are just completely washed out, so there's good value in some of the retail names. But I also am looking very much on a stock-specific basis. So, for instance, stocks, I do like some of the technology stocks. AOL is a stock that I actually like quite well in the technology area. I think that the combined company is very exciting. I think that they have less TV exposure than a lot of the media companies. I like the cable business, and I like that stock.
Leah Mogliani from Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, always a pleasure, and thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Leah. Coming up next, calling all Kmart investors, making a comeback. We'll have the bottom line on the nation's second largest discount retailer. We will be back.
kind he never thought would handle individual portfolios. One of the best is a few feet away. If only the two could mate. See how we earn it. Solomon Smith Barney.
The typical discount broker offers 8,500 research reports online. Which begs the question, who's going to help you make sense of 8,500 research reports online? With Merrill Lynch Unlimited Advantage, your personal financial consultant will help you plan, invest, and bank, all for a simple fee. A simple fee, a simpler life. That should make your family very happy indeed.
Tonight in the Crossfire, the California power crisis, could it be heading to your state? And will drilling for oil in the nation's forests really help our energy needs? Crossfire tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight and every weeknight at 11, join Fred Hickman and Vince Cellini with Kara Henderson on Sports Tonight. All the talk, all the info, plus all the scores and highlights. You're just one click away from the driver's seat. So go ahead, make the call and have your say. Or take it online with other fans and be a part of the action. We want you by email, phone, or on the web. Sports Tonight. Tonight and every weeknight at 11 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight on Wolf Blitzer Reports, an interview with former Senator Bob Dole. I'll ask him about Presidents Clinton and Bush and talk political humor with one of the funniest men in politics. Wolf Blitzer Reports tonight, 8 Eastern on CNN.
Now to the bottom line, our regular Friday feature looking inside one company commanding headlines. Tonight, Kmart. It started as a five and dime operation in 1899. And over the course of the past 100 years grew into a retailing giant. Kmart stock has struggled recently, though, but this month it may have turned a corner. It is up more than 60%. And a new high-profile investor is helping the company mount a much-needed comeback, as Casey Wyan reports in this week's Bottom Line.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
When Kmart reported a 4% increase in January's same-store sales this week, it was the first time in a year and a half that the company's results beat analyst expectations. That news, combined with a $4.5 billion deal with a key supplier and a $200 million investment from a Los Angeles supermarket icon, has turned Kmart into the Wall Street equivalent of a blue light special. During mid-1998, Kmart's stock rose as high as $21 a share. Then distribution problems, management turnover, and a retail slowdown wiped out 75% of the stock's value in 2.5 years. But so far this year, Kmart has rebounded sharply. Merrill Lynch senior retail analyst Daniel Berry credits a combination of lower interest rates boosting all retail stocks and a management shakeup.
The new management came in last fall, Chuck Conway from CVS, and he's doing a terrific job. He's hired some very top people, 2 people from Walmart, 1 from Coca-Cola, 1 from Warner Lambert. He's totally shaking up the company, a lot of layoffs, a lot of new hirings at the middle management level, installing a new culture.
Perhaps more challenging than installing a new culture will be fixing the company's distribution problems, which have resulted in understocked stores and complaints about customer service. One potential fix is the deal Kmart signed this week with Dallas-based food wholesaler Fleming Companies. The 10-year, $4.5 billion pact makes Fleming the exclusive supplier of food products to Kmart superstores. Kmart, which declined to be interviewed on camera for this story, expects the deal to yield $300 million in cost savings during its first 3 years and lock up a more efficient supply chain for a decade.
We brought the company into a new age alignment where we will focus on procurement and logistics, which are our core competencies, and Kmart will focus on retail and merchandising, which are their core competencies.
Chief competitor Walmart dwarfs Kmart in annual sales, and it just barely leads Target for the number 2 spot. Kmart trails both badly in the more important race for profit margins.
The competition is there. It's always tough, but their biggest problem actually is just getting their margins up, basically running the business in a more efficient manner. They do have a 4% margin, and Target and Walmart are close to 10. and there's no reason why they shouldn't narrow that gap just by executing better.
No doubt keeping a close eye on that effort from the Sunset Boulevard offices of his Yucaipa investment company is billionaire supermarket magnate Ron Burkle. Burkle and an associate have amassed 6% of Kmart's stock in recent months and have antitrust clearance to buy up to 15%. Burkle, who also declined to speak to CNN, has been quoted as being supportive of Kmart management. But given his past history of buying and merging the Ralph's and Food for Less supermarket chains with Kroger, Wall Street is buzzing with Kmart merger talk. For a company with a website that links to the National Enquirers, Burkle also brings a tabloid element. He's most recently appeared in the news as the man who gave Reverend Jesse Jackson's mistress a job, and reportedly is the driving force behind Michael Milken's unsuccessful campaign for a presidential pardon. 2 years ago, Burkle and former Hollywood super agent Michael Ovitz lost a bid to bring pro football back to Los Angeles. And finally, Burkle co-investor Ken Abdallah is the man who bought and tore down O.J. Simpson's infamous Brentwood estate. Burkle also has acquired nearly 9% of Kmart partner Fleming's stock, leading to speculation he may be trying to merge the two companies.
So you think he could be your boss soon? Is that a no?
Next. What's next for Kmart is anyone's guess. What's clear, though, is the company now appears to be in better shape to compete than it has been in years. Casey Wyans, CNN Financial News, Los Angeles.
And just ahead, some perspective on the theme of the week, tax cuts, from our very own financial editor, Myron Kandel. Here he is.
BMW X5 from $39,545.
On CNN tonight, as the Pentagon launches a review on the U.S. nuclear arsenal and weapons strategy, George W. Bush prepares to visit military installations. A preview of the upcoming military week. CNN tonight, 10 Eastern. Saturday on CNN.com. Who's writing them? Who's fighting them? Is there a cure for this epidemic? An inside report on computer viruses. What you need to know to breathe easy. Saturday, 2 Eastern.
CNNFN.com. Fast. From the raw numbers to investment strategy and advice. Getting the information to you when you need it. CNNFN.com. Smart. Our team of online reporters and editors provide you the very latest facts with original reporting and writing on all the day's top financial stories, personal finance coverage second to none, and the tools to help you act on the information and news we provide. CNNFN.com. Put the web to work for you.
Next week on Moneyline, time to realign the forces. We'll look at President Bush's plans to overhaul national defense. How will military spending change? Which companies will win and lose the war for dollars? Monday night on Moneyline. The Bush tax cut plan has clearly made a lot of headlines this week. But for investors, the real question is this tax cut plan enough to get this economy moving again, or is it perhaps too much? Some perspective on that from our very own financial editor, Myron Kandel. Too big or too small? Which is it?
Well, Stuart, I want to make it just right, okay? And, you know, there are a lot of people in this country who need tax relief. Probably you and I do not as much as they do.
Don't get me started, Mike.
Okay, but I want a reasonable tax cut, and I want to change some of the, I agree with the president, we should reduce the estate tax. We should fix the marriage penalty, and we should increase child credit. But I'm not in favor of giving the top few percent of the country the bulk of the tax cut. I want to give it to the people who need it the most, and that's the middle class and even below.
It is their money, however. They are the ones who paid it. What's wrong with giving them back when they've paid too much in taxes?
Well, first place, I'm in favor of government activities when they're proper, okay, and within reason. So I don't mind paying my taxes, all right, as long as they're spent properly. That's the key. And I'm afraid that Congress is going to go overboard. You know, there are some Republicans who see this as a floor, not a ceiling. And there are some Democrats who say it's much too much. I want something in between, and I think with some reasonable statesmanship on both sides, we'll get it.
So, if you get a tax cut and you say yourself you don't need it, will you give it back?
No, I won't give it back. I believe in playing by the rules, and the rules will be done by other people, but I want us to be...
There's no rule against giving it back.
No, but...
If you don't want it, if you don't need it, why don't you give it back?
Stuart, my check will follow yours.
No, it will not, because my check won't be there. But it was fun, Mike, and thanks very much. Up next, ahead of the curve, some of what you need to know before that tax cut arrives soon. We'll be back.
Moneyline's Ahead of the Curve is brought to you by Daytech Online, the online broker that's built to trade.
Johnson, let's see these orders lickety split.
Strangely, many online brokers still route most of their orders the long way, through trading desks, market makers, or other middlemen. Daytech Online, however, has created powerful technology that bypasses many of the old obstacles. Are you getting the fastest possible execution of your online order? Daytech Online, built to trade.
On CNN tonight, as the Pentagon launches a review on the U.S. nuclear arsenal and weapons strategy, George W. Bush prepares to visit military installations. A preview of the upcoming military week. CNN tonight, 10 Eastern.
Checking some of what could make headlines on Wall Street next week, Alan Greenspan testifies before the Senate Banking Committee on Monetary Policy. That's next Tuesday. And watch for more on the economy next week with the PPI, import-export prices, housing starts, and production utilization numbers all for January. Plus, quarterly results from Hewlett-Packard, Dell Computer, Applied Materials, Ciena, and Global Crossing, as well as Viacom. Tune into Moneyline on Monday when Ron Hill is our guest. And visit our website at CNN.com and email your stock questions for Ron to Moneyline@CNN.com. Finally from us tonight, you may have heard of items falling off a truck before, but not quite like this. On Wednesday, an armored truck leaving the Cleveland Federal Reserve Bank full of cash somehow lost 3 large packages of money, each weighing 44 pounds when they fell out of an unlatched back door. Now, the packages comprising $640,000 in bills were missing for 2 whole days until this morning when a man walked into the Cleveland Fed to return the cash. It was still wrapped in its original plastic. He matched descriptions of the person who picked up the packages in a busy Cleveland intersection. The U.S. Attorney's Office decided not to charge the man with any crime.
Wait a minute, Willa. Didn't they thank him vigorously for his honesty?
I think after he held the money they suspect for 2 days, they didn't quite go that far. That is Moneyline for this Friday. I'm Will Obey.
And I'm Stuart Varney. Good night from New York. Crossfire is next, and here is Bob Novak. Bob.
Stuart and Willow, thank you. California faces its 4th straight week of Stage 3 power alerts. That may be a mystery to you if you don't live in the Golden State, but you may also be suffering all too soon. What to do? A California congressman wants the federal government to take over the power industry. An Alaska senator wants oil drilling in the Arctic Wildlife Reserve. They'll battle it out. Next in the Crossfire.
Closed captioning for this program has been provided by Verizon Communications.
Saturday on Evans, Novak, Hunt, Shields, President Bush's point man on Capitol Hill, Congressman Rob Portman. Saturday, 5:30 Eastern on CNN.
S is for special. Special like you. Hamilton, my love. Ball comes through.
With AT&T high-speed cable internet service, you don't just use the internet, you experience it. Nothing moves you like the speed of AT&T at home. Go cable, go faster. Get free installation and your first 6 months at $19.95 per month.
New at 5, a lesson of love and hope in the shape of a doll.
You can take something damaged like we have been by our past, and you can make it beautiful if you want to.
Tonight at 5, only on News Channel 8, where the news comes first.
They said there was 0 chance of his coming off the operating table alive.
Tonight at 11.
I am a miracle.
Meet families touched by medical miracles. Tonight at 11 on News Channel 8, where the news comes first.
This is CNN.
Tonight, California's energy crisis. What can the federal government do to keep it from happening in your state? Is drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge the answer?
Live from Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Bill Press. On the right, Robert Novak. In the Crossfire, Republican Senator Frank Murkowski of Alaska, chairman of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. And in San Diego, California, Democratic Congressman Bob Filner.
Good evening. Welcome to Crossfire. California's power shortage is not ending. The 4th straight week of a power alert there remained in effect through today. Here in the nation's capital, senators held hearings on the Korean War Vintage Defense Production Act, which is being used to force natural gas sales to California utilities that cannot pay their bills. Is California's woe today the country's misery tomorrow? To prevent that from happening, Senate Energy Committee Chairman Murkowski wants to start drilling for oil up in the wildlife refuge in his home state of Alaska. But Congressman Filner, who's been fighting the utilities in his hometown of San Diego, wants Uncle Sam to regulate the utilities. Bill Richardson is sorry that he is no longer Secretary of Energy so that he could deal with the problem firsthand. But at least he's sitting in on the left tonight. Bill?
Senator Murkowski, it's good to be asking you questions now for a change.
Well, that's fair enough. I'm glad you're here.
Senator, you and President Bush have been seizing on this electricity crisis in California to press your case for more drilling in Alaska's wildlife refuge, even though there doesn't appear to be a connection. Here's my question. Besides damaging the ecology, the wildlife of ANWR, besides the fact that it's going to take 7 to 10 years to get some of that oil moving into the country, minimal energy impact on the needs that we have in the country for energy, why do we have to drill at ANWR?
Well, you've been secretary, and you know that opening up ANWR isn't going to solve the California energy crisis. And we never said it was, nor did the president, nor did the vice president. This is kind of something that's been generated by the media and others by trying to connect the two together. Obviously, what you've got in California is an energy shortage. And you've got another problem out there is they can't pay for it. Now, as far as opening ANWR is concerned, realistically, you and I both know, you've been up there, there's no scientific evidence to suggest that we can't do it. We've had 30 years of experience in Prudhoe Bay. We've taken care of the caribou. We've got technology now, 3D seismic. And if you're going to look for oil, you better look for it where you're most likely to find it. And remember, if California doesn't get oil from Alaska where it's getting it now, it's going to get it overseas because it has to have it. And that means it's going to come in foreign vessels from Colombia or Venezuela or areas where they don't have the environmental concern. We know we can do it right in Alaska, and you help make us do it right.
Well, Senator, let me show you a poll on ANWR of the American people. By a 53 to 33%, they oppose it. We do have to take the views of the American people into account. You had a bill today, boosting domestic oil and gas production. That's good. We try to do that too. We got to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. But isn't the answer, isn't the key here more energy efficiency programs, renewable energy, more fuel-efficient vehicles? If we increase the average efficiency of a vehicle by 3 miles per gallon, that's 1 million barrels per day less that we have to consume. Isn't that the way to go?
We've got to conserve more. And what we've got in our bill is more attention to alternatives, renewables. But you cannot simply conserve your way out of this pickle. Now, you know, and you made the statement when you were secretary, that your administration got napping. You got caught napping, if you will, because the energy crisis occurred on your watch. Now, I'm not going to argue the merits because, you know, we've got a problem in this country. We both admit it. Now we've got to solve that problem. But to suggest that your poll's right, I'll show you a poll from the Christian Science Monitor that came out 58-34 in favor of opening it up as long as you can do it safely. I'll show you a poll in the Chicago Tribune that'll say the same thing.
The quote I made was on the home heating oil summit in Boston. It had nothing to do.
Well, I think it was communicated that you were napping. Right? Now, I don't know what it takes to keep you awake, but you're awake now.
Let's bring Bob Filner in. Bob Filner, you still got the lights on in San Diego? Good, you're ahead of the game. Congressman Filner, let me see if I get this straight. The misbegotten government of California does a miserable job of deregulating by keeping one set of prices high and the other set of prices regulated. They have, but their environmental restrictions, they do not permit the sufficient building of power plants as they have elsewhere. And now you want the federal government to put price controls on wholesale electricity. Did I summarize it correctly?
Well, as usual, you got a few things wrong, Bob. San Diego, in fact, was the first place to fully deregulate. We deregulated fully, and what happened? Within a month, the prices doubled. Within 2 months, the prices tripled. That's when a temporary retail rate was imposed. What has caused this crisis since last June was not a lack of supply. It was not environmental regulations. It was a manipulation of the wholesale market by a cartel of energy wholesalers and marketers, about 7 of them. They drove up the prices. They created panic in San Diego, and they've created utilities in $12 billion worth of debt.
Well, Congressman Filner, I know that people on the left always want to have these terrible capitalists doing all these terrible things. Of course, I thought capitalism had won the Cold War. I guess they didn't in San Diego necessarily. But isn't it every other place I've read, and by objective scientific observers, they say this is a supply and demand problem, that not enough electric power has been produced in California for the needs because of the environmental excesses of your state government.
There is certainly a critical need for supply. We have tight supplies, and in fact, the governor and the legislature have put a dozen plants are online that will come on in production in the next 2 or 3 years. We are trying to do that while without hindering the environment. But Bob, the key issue here is the wholesale price, which has been boosted up without any relationship to the cost, without any relationship to the supply. They charge whatever they pleased at whatever time they wanted to do. It has bankrupted the utilities. It has thrown small businesses out of work, and only the federal government, as the Secretary will tell you, can regulate the wholesale price. We need a 2 to 3 to 4 year interim period where we lower those wholesale prices so we can get an actual market at place. There is no free market at work here, Bob.
Chairman Murkowski, let me ask you this. You guys blame a lack of an energy policy, environmental regulations. The fact is the California crisis was caused by a flawed deregulation plan in 1996 of Governor Wilson's. Now, putting that aside, and you also know that if you guys had passed our energy efficiency programs, our fuel-efficient vehicle programs, our conservation programs, our renewable energy budgets, we would have been better off. But here's my...
You guys, just a minute. You had the White House, so
well, but
sure
you guys had the Congress.
You guys are.
You guys, let me just ask a question about California, Senator. The Bush administration has adopted a hands-off approach to California's problems. Now, we agree. Now, Senator, we agree that we have to resolve, that California has to resolve its problem on its own. But look what's happening today. There could be a natural gas shortage. We put in an emergency order, the Clinton administration, renewed by the Bush administration, my predecessor, my successor, Senator Abraham.
On gas as well as
on gas, on electricity.
Right.
You continued that. But the problem is, you have said publicly, the Bush administration, you're not going to renew it again.
Just a minute.
What happens if there's a shortage?
Just a minute. Now, there's been some positive action by California. The legislature and the governor basically guaranteed about $10 billion worth of financing to take care of the debt. Now, it isn't going to take care of it all, but remember what this administration has done. We have guaranteed, in effect, payment of that debt if the utilities or the ratepayers of California won't do it. And you did the same thing. Now, that's pretty significant. Every taxpayer in this country, by that order, if PG&E and Southern California Edison can't pay, just a minute, can't pay for that power, those power companies are going to come to the government. They're going to say, hey, the government directed the power to go in, and so we bear a liability.
The government stuck with the bill.
We're stuck with it if they can't pay for it. Make no mistake.
The Bush administration continued that. My point here, Senator, is what if there are rolling blackouts?
Just a minute. California has taken some positive action.
Yes.
And we've got to be sympathetic to California, and California is addressing this. But you have two problems out there. You have a credit problem, A, they can't pay for it, and you have a supply problem. The congressman was right when he acknowledged we don't have enough energy in California. But just a minute, California got into this problem because they became dependent on outside energy coming into their state, 25%. That's the same problem that the nation's having with 56% imported oil. And you know where it's coming from now? It's coming from Saddam Hussein. We fought a war over there in 1991.
Senator,
we lost 147 lives. That happened under your watch, my friend.
Mr. Chairman, that's not the case. But, Senator, let me ask you this. Why don't we have temporary price caps the way most Western governors are advocating? This is a Western regional problem. We have to find a solution. Well, why doesn't the federal government at least help California a little bit?
They are, and they should, and they will, but California is also helping itself. Remember, the key here is to put in more power, and in order to do that, you need an investment. And Wall Street is going to call the shot on whether California is doing enough to attract investments to come in, because nobody's going to come in there unless they can amortize their investment.
All right,
now, why did California want to break its utilities? That's what I'd like to ask you.
Senator Murkowski is a very kind person. He says we've got to be sympathetic to California. But I want you to read.
Not very kind.
No, I'm very kind. But I want you to read what another Republican senator, Larry Craig of Idaho, said, and let's put it up on the screen. He's saying, I'm suggesting to my consumers in Idaho that they send the bill to California. The brownouts in California could well be the brownouts of Idaho, Oregon, and Washington next summer. Bob Filner, he is putting the blame right on California for infecting the entire West with your bad policies. Isn't that right?
What he's saying is what we're saying, that he should be putting the blame, by the way, on the wholesalers. That's what's caused the increase in prices. And we're all in this together, Bob, the western states and the country. If California's utilities fail, if we have blackouts that take out production, the rest of the country is going to suffer immensely. It is only the federal government that can rationalize these prices at a reasonable level, as 100 years of deregulation did. What the senator said is it's California's fault. I got news for him. His state is next. The wholesale prices that were driven out without any regard to the cost, without any regard to the supply and demand curves that you guys talk about. They choose whatever they want, and we are suffering. We have businesses, gone out of business, etc.
Well, the point I want to make is when California, went through its deregulation, it really wasn't deregulation, we all know that, because they put a cap on retail. What they did, though, is they threw out all the long-term contracts for buying energy and went short-term, and when the supply was tough, then the price went up, and that's the way it works.
We got to take a break, and when we come back, we will discuss and we will argue why Texas is doing so well and California is doing so badly on the cost of electricity. In the meantime, don't miss your chance to pose your questions to former Energy Secretary Bill Richardson. What an opportunity. Right after the show at CNN.com/crossfire.
Pennsylvania.
Internet protocol, IP. Let me tell you something. There is no protocol. The Internet is one big mess. And you know why? No love. Where there's no love, there's no harmony. Till these cats at Broadwing built the world's first all-optical network. Not with their brains, man. But with their heart. And some freaky engineer mojo. No. This is not an IP network. This is their love child, man.
The typical discount broker offers 8,500 research reports online. Which begs the question, who's going to help you make sense of 8,500 research reports online? With Merrill Lynch Unlimited Advantage, your personal financial consultant will help you plan, invest, and bank, all for a simple fee. A simple fee, a simpler life. That should make your family very happy indeed.
Internet solutions unique to you. Fujitsu. The possibilities are infinite.
All the companies that make up the Dow can be yours in just one security. Index shares called diamonds. Every Diamonds index share gives you ownership in all 30 blue-chip companies that make up the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Diamonds are traded all day, just like stock, under stock symbol DIA on the American Stock Exchange. The whole Dow in one security. No wonder they're called diamonds. Just call your broker or 1-800-THE-AMEX.
Look around out there. The world is full of invention. At Exelon, we think it's time for utility companies to catch up. It's time to do not just energy and infrastructure, but ideas. Okay, we'll go first. Exelon, welcome change.
Life is about the potential that lies ahead of us, as well as the accomplishments we look back on. What we make of our potential, how we leave our mark on the people and places we touch, depends on many things. At Cargill, we know one thing is certain. How we nourish our bodies and minds has much to do with what we make of our lives.
Linda Tripp for the hour, tonight, 9 Eastern.
Welcome back to Crossfire. I'm Bill Richardson, former Energy Secretary, now taking up temporary residence as a most distinguished professor at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Today, our debate focuses on the Republicans' answer to the energy problem. Drill, 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 no matter where. Is this the right way to go? That's what we're asking our guest tonight. Chairman Republican Senator Frank Murkowski of Alaska, Chair of the Energy Committee, and Democratic Congressman Bob Filner of California. Bob?
Congressman Filner, your great state of California, the most populous state in the country, is having brownouts, fears of much worse to come. The second most populous state in the country, Texas, is doing just fine. Could it be because they have built 22 new power plants in recent years and you haven't?
It might be, but I'm not sure what the reason for that. Look, California made a terrible mistake in deregulation. We did not have the competitive situation that would allow the free market to work. There's no question about that. And the wholesalers made matters worse. They took advantage of a system that was set up wrong, and they put this whole state into debt. And we've got to figure out a way out of it, and we need 3 or 4 years worth of help from the federal government. We'll figure our way out of it. But it is the Texas companies, the Texas oil companies, that have put this state in debt. They have sucked $12 billion out of our economy, Bob, took it over to Texas and gave it over to President Bush's election.
Congressman Filner, you know, you're a student of history, as I am. And isn't it true...
But I learned something from history.
Well, I try to learn something. I'm not as quick as you are. But isn't it true that every cheap crackpot dictator from Hitler to Stalin, the first thing he thinks of is price controls?
Well, I don't know about that, Bob, but look, I will tell you, your ideology is getting in the way of your facing the facts here. The fact of the matter is, we did, Senator Murkowski, we did fully deregulate here in San Diego.
You didn't deregulate because you had a cap on retail.
No, we did.
Oh,
you don't understand the situation.
I do understand
the
situation.
In San Diego, we completely deregulated, and the prices tripled within 3 months. We had no retail cap. It was only after that disaster, when businesses were just closing up and seniors were panicking, that's when the state put on a temporary cap. We fully deregulated. And Enron and Southern and Dynegy and NRG took complete advantage of us and basically bankrupted the utilities.
The problem, we know the problem. Now, the situation is,
I agree.
Let's get out of it and let's
It's
work
not by
together.
drilling oil,
it's
Senator.
Hey, we're not talking about drilling oil, are we?
Well, I haven't heard what you said.
What we're talking about is trying to solve your credit problem and increase your supply of energy. Most of that's gas that's not coming into California because you can't pay for it. Now, the difference between what you're talking about and what this administration is doing is they've got a task force formed, and it involves the people who can make decisions, unlike the previous administration. You've got the Secretary of Energy under the Vice President. You've got the Secretary.
Mr. Chairman,
just a minute.
I was about
you've
to
got
compliment
the
you
head of the
before you said
EPA, the head of the EPA, and you've got the people coming together that are going to set the policy so that you can do something about it. Now, under the previous administration, you know, Bill, everybody went their separate way. The Secretary of Energy, the Secretary of the Interior, they're bringing them together so they can do something about the problem.
I'm about to compliment you.
They're going to come up with some answers, and you're going to be hold them responsible.
I've got a good question for you.
The sunsetted
Mr. Chairman, please.
The task force. That's the thing. That's the significance.
You did a good job.
So did you.
On the electricity competition bill. We all try to get it passed together. Don't you agree that, despite your best efforts, that if the Congress had passed this competition bill, that would have brought more needed investment on transmission and generating facilities around the country? The fact that deregulation in other states is working well, that California had a bad one. Now, my question to you as Chairman of the Energy Committee, do you think an electricity competition bill, because of the problems in California, is basically dead this session?
Until California restructures itself, I think the credibility is gone out of the wind of deregulation. Unfortunately, it's working well in many states. Pennsylvania's an example, doing a great job. They have caps on wholesale and retail, but they didn't put them on so tight that there wasn't some flexibility.
Senator, we need some time to do that restructuring, and I hope you'll support us on our need for a wholesale.
I totally support your commitment to pass $10 billion worth of bonds to take care of your debt, because who's going to pay for this?
But you don't want federal price controls.
That's the question. That's a good question.
Somebody's
Who's
got to pay for this?
Who's going to pay for it? Why should it be the retail? Why should it be the taxpayers?
Your consumers got consideration for that power. Remember that. Now,
I'm sorry,
your consumers got consideration for that power. They got the power. Somebody's got to pay for it. If your legislature wants to pay for it, 10 or 20 times
I have the power.
Hey.
I have the power to end this debate.
Your show.
Thank you very much, Senator Murkowski.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
nice to be with
Congressman Fellner. And we'll come back with closing comments to determine whether the real person who's responsible for this mess is Bill Richardson.
Welcome to America Online, new version 6.0. The easiest just got even easier.
You just plug it in and you go.
With 6.0, all the best features are even better.
You've got mail.
Customer service is always there to help. Parental controls help safeguard our kids.
Nobody else has all these features.
It keeps me closer to my family and friends.
There's never been a better time to join.
6.0 is the best AOL ever.
America Online, new version 6.0. So easy to use, no wonder it's #1. Call 1-800-4ONLINE now.
The new version of Oracle will make your website 3 times faster, or we'll give you $1 million.
No two eyes see the same world. No two businesses are identical. And now, one company creates internet solutions unique to you. Fujitsu. The possibilities are infinite.
1844. Searching for a simpler life, philosopher Henry David Thoreau retreats to the woods of Massachusetts. Of course, Thoreau didn't have a family to support, wasn't in the 39% tax bracket, or concerned with balancing his portfolio. And he didn't have Merrill Lynch Unlimited Advantage, where your personal financial consultant will help you plan, invest, and bank all for a simple fee. A simple fee, a simpler life. Beats sleeping in the woods, doesn't it?
Coming up at the top of the hour, President Bush and the U.S. military. Why are some of the military chiefs concerned? We'll go live to the White House to find out. More questions about Denise Rich's contributions to President Clinton's library in Little Rock. What, if any, role did they play in his decision to pardon her ex-husband? And I'll ask former Senator Bob Dole about the Clinton pardons and his new book on presidential humor. Wolf Blitzer Reports follows Crossfire's closing comments.
Closing Comments is brought to you by Payne Weber. Thank you, Payne Weber. Log on to cnn.com/crossfire to deliver your closing comments.
Let's see. College in 4 years. Costs up 40% over the next 5. Somebody do the math here.
It'd be great if our money would grow as fast as these kids. I can't believe
Will paying for college be as painful as this?
Hey, that kid just dropped a pretzel? Because I like pretzels. I really like
We'll be able to help with their education.
I wonder if we should have put that money in a trust. Maybe we would have...
I hope she was kidding about college in Hawaii.
Thank you, Payne Weber.
What's the matter with you? Fire doesn't end here tonight. Bill Richardson will be in the chat room to answer your questions right after the show at cnn.com/crossfire. Bill, you know I bow to nobody in my admiration for you, but you look like you really handed your successor, poor Spence Abraham, a bag of worms there. Why didn't you fix this problem before you left the Energy Department?
Well, as I said before, we tried on the California issue to warn the Congress about transmission generation problems in California. I'd been out there in Sacramento a year ago saying you may have this, but really, Bob, that really is a state problem. But I think the federal government has to help. What you have, what we need is good supply and demand problems. There's plenty of blame to go around.
But surely you don't agree with Bob Filner that the federal government should come in and put in price controls all over the state of California.
What I do think is needed is a temporary price gap in the western region till the situation gets better.
Do you think it's going to happen?
I think it's possible. I think the Bush administration is going to have to be more aggressive.
Well, they better start building some power plants, though.
Absolutely.
And they get away from that tree-hugging syndrome and build some power plants.
Well, you can do both. You can have environmental protection and new power generation. From the left, I'm Bill Richardson. Good night from Crossfire.
On the right, I'm Robert Novak. Join us again next time for another edition of Crossfire. Saturday on Evans, Novak, Hunt, and Shields, President Bush's point man on Capitol Hill, Congressman Rob Portman, Saturday, 5:30 Eastern on CNN.
This week on Entertainment Tonight, the real-life crime scenes of Tinseltown still unsolved mysteries. And there's been thousands, but now there's one unlike all the rest. This week on E.T.
Watch tonight at 7 on KOIN TV 6.
Tonight on KOIN 6 News at 5, a house explodes in a Portland neighborhood, the occupants seen running away. And whether you push or drive, new rules for scooters are on the way. That's tonight at 5.
He's rich, he's cute. Let's just see how smart he is. Do you have a satellite dish or AT&T digital cable?
I have a dish.
So you can't watch different channels on different sets at the same time without expensive equipment.
I can't.
And you can't get the latest technology without having to buy new equipment.
I can't.
And you can't keep wasting my time.
I can't. AT&T